There's only one thing that's running through my soul, and that is
Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We're a few days away from a huge game, so we have a huge show tonight. Now go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and hit the notification bell just so that you don't miss any content. We have a lot of hot videos and takes that have literally gone viral over the last few days, so y'all need to go back and watch those. But this is the Crimson Dynasty. We are one of the shows here on the Bama Standard Network. My name is Sishi. I'm the host here, and we have two of the best co-hosts. So I'll quickly introduce them, but I want to jump right in because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So really quickly, we have Dan James IV. He is the lead recruiting analyst on the Bama Standard Network. Any questions that you have, go to him. Any recruiting related questions. And then we also have JB from Sunday Nights Talking Bama. He's the latest addition to Crimson Dynasty, but y'all know him very well. Has really good takes. Sometimes he'll go in and let y'all know, like Link. But shout out to both of y'all. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Before we jump right in, I have to shout out our newest sponsor, Limestone Company. So if you've ever dreamed of having just a natural stone in your home, we tell you just don't settle for subpar materials. Check out Limestone Company's selection of natural stone products to meet all of your project needs. Limestone is located in Oneonta, Alabama, and they're one of the oldest and most trusted sources in the state. So contact them today and tell them that we sent you by using the promo code the Bama Standard to receive 10% off of your first order. So go ahead and check them out. We have their website listed below in the banner. Now, if you're watching us right now on X, if we're streaming on X right now, if you're watching us, go ahead and head over to our YouTube channel and search the Bama Standard and be sure to subscribe. So we may be streaming there too, but you won't be able to actually comment directly from there. But we do want to see y'all who are on YouTube hit up that live chat because we're gonna have a lot of hot topics tonight. So let's just jump right in. The first question: is it time for us to panic with the DeBoer era? Now, we had some videos, like I mentioned, that went viral the last few days. Mixed emotions, mixed opinions, hot off of that, somewhat of a win against South Carolina. I want to jump right in. JB, I see you kind of moving around. I want to get your take first, then I'll go to you, Dan, and then I'll give mine. What's your thoughts on where we are right now with Coach DeBoer? Do you feel like maybe he's in over his head, or do we still need to give him a little bit more time?
I would say it's really not time to actually go in panic mode, so to speak, because I know a lot of people were ready to jump off the cliff. They were ready to, fire DeBoer, fire Womack, fire everybody. And I understand the frustrations, but we're only 6 games in. Of course, we had a bad loss, and we almost lost last week. But, you got to give them time. And like I said before, these guys are actually learning on the fly. We got a bunch of new coaches on the staff, and these players have to get adjusted to the new schemes and whatnot. But I don't think it's really time to panic. Frustrations, and as the Bama Standard is so high, we own the Bama Standard, but the Bama Standard has always been high. Mm-hmm. Saban had it for 17 straight years. He set the bar, and the bar has stayed up there. So for the new coach to come in and keep it at that same level, it's going to be difficult. So we got to understand that as fans, it's going to be difficult to keep that bar at that level. Other than that, I would say, it's a bit of a struggle. We just got to keep going. We got to improve. It's a lot of room for improvement. So my panic meter personally is not high. It's probably about 5 or 6. I'm in the middle. With them. I'm willing to wait, willing to work it out and see what happens. But most of Bama fans have seemed to be panicking from social media. Don't you guys agree?
Look, I'm ready to share my take, but I want to hear what Dan has to say. I feel you on your take, JB, as far as specifically regarding Coach DeBoer, because I would imagine your thoughts regarding Kane Womack probably are on a whole different level. So we do have to kind of separate the two, but I do agree with some of what you said. Dan, what are your thoughts on Coach DeBoer? Do you feel like we need to panic a little bit, or do you feel like we need to give him a little bit more time?
Definitely, I feel like it is definitely not the time to panic. My panic meter, I would say, is at a 4, because what we're doing, we're comparing it to the Saban era, the greatest era of college football. So we're comparing Coach DeBoer and Alabama to, he's coming behind the greatest coach to ever do it. So the Bama standards are higher than any place else in America. It's higher, So
Yeah.
as far as panic, no, I'm not there yet. No, terrible, lost the Vandy, no way around it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a new coach, new scheme, new system. So he's trying to get the players into his system. So everybody's learning. So I think we've done a very good job. So. We are where we are. Coach Saban, he called quits on us, so we were circling the wagons. And I think right now, Coach DeBoer has done a commendable job to this point. Outside of Vanderbilt.
Okay. Well, and I'm going to pose the question to those who are in the chat as well. Go ahead and drop in the chat. What are your thoughts? Do you feel like maybe people were just kind of, reacting out of emotion, fresh off of the game? Or do you feel like it's warranted, some of the feedback that we're hearing? Now, I'll say from my perspective, and I definitely understand what y'all are saying. I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm maybe at a 5. And I say that because we do have that standard at Alabama and the expectation. And of course, Coach DeBoer, he knew that when he accepted the role. Now, I really like Coach DeBoer. I was bought in, 100%, and I'm still bought in. However, the difference, and a lot of people seem to kind of forget that. I've seen some comments where people are kind of like, oh, well, just show him some grace. Remember Coach Saban's first year. But the key difference is that the level of talent that we had Coach Saban's first year was you can't compare that with what Coach DeBoer has to work with right now. I think a lot of my major concern with Coach DeBoer right now is I do want to see some more fire from him. I understand that there are different personalities as far as coaches, but they have to understand too that the players take on their personalities. So they have to understand how that plays into it. But then I also want to see, because you have all these different press conferences with Coach DeBoer, Kane Womack, the different coaches, and you don't really hear them take as much ownership of some of the errors. It's easy for Kane Womack to get out there and make it seem like, okay, well, the players aren't, finishing their assignment, they don't know their assignments, they're not finishing their tackles, but it's like, well, what are you doing as far as the coach? Do you know your assignment? Because I'm truly questioning if he understands his role, but we're going to get into that. So and like I said, I want the chat to chime in on how y'all feel about Coach DeBoer. Let's keep it specific to Coach DeBoer. I had to throw in Kane Womack because I do want to see more leadership from from Coach DeBoer. I mean, that's his job, right? So hopefully we see some positive changes this weekend. Now, I want to kind of pivot a little bit though, because, we talk about our upcoming game this weekend against Tennessee. We know that's a huge matchup, right? They were saying that Alabama, Georgia, that was the game of the century. I believe after Tennessee lost to Arkansas and we lost to Vanderbilt, that changed the whole narrative. So this weekend is going to be key. Now, I want to kind of talk about how important this matchup actually is for the SEC, but also for the playoffs. Let's kind of get into this because I believe that there's a lot of layers to this. So in terms of the SEC, right, we beat Georgia. We know Georgia plays Texas this weekend. It's a night game. They play at Texas. That's going to be huge. And it's going to be a lot at stake. Now, I believe that Georgia is going to beat Texas. They have more to prove, in my opinion. And I think that we do kind of need to shut up Texas a little bit. But I do believe that there's a lot of shaking up that's going to be happening in the SEC, where in just a few weeks, I don't really know if any of the SEC teams are going to be, undefeated. So what does this matchup really mean for the SEC and the playoffs now that we have a 12-team playoff? Dan, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. This game this week is what I would say the first separation Saturday. So we're going to start seeing, I think after this week, we'll be able to set tiers as far as the SEC. The biggest game on the docket, Georgia and Texas.
Yeah.
Because Georgia loses, they're in a bad situation when it comes to the playoffs. So this is a must-win game for Georgia. And I would go as far as to say, this is a must-win game for Alabama and Tennessee too, because Texas wins, then it's going to be Texas and everybody else in the SEC. That's the perfect scenario, for Texas. For Alabama to lose and it'd be Texas. Tennessee probably be second. So this is a huge weekend, So let's assume Missouri keeps winning. Ole Miss they put themselves in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But the two games, the key games, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, in Texas. So, Alabama to go in and to Knoxville and come out with a win after beating Georgia. So you have a win in Knoxville and a win against Georgia. And if Georgia beats Texas, we'll be sitting really good in a very favorable spot. So, I'm telling you now, I'm gonna be a Georgia Bulldog fan this weekend.
No, same here. You know what? When we beat Georgia, I was like, yeah, we got to see Georgia beat Texas, and I believe they can. But that was a good take. JB, what are your thoughts on this? What do you feel like is at stake in terms of the SEC, but then also the playoffs as a whole?
I agree with Dan. It's kind of like what you call it, Separation Saturday. It's two big games, but let's not forget, Texas A&M is still undefeated in the SEC. And they play Texas at the end of the season. So if both of those teams continue to be undefeated, then what are we looking like? We got to get, Georgia will be a big win, and it will really make some noise because we got a lot of teams. Everybody's lost except Texas and Texas A&M in the SEC. A lot of one-loss teams in there. So somebody to take that second loss, just like you mentioned, will be in trouble like Ole Miss. You got 2 losses, and you still have 5-6 more games left in the SEC. It's really like Bama, Tennessee are in the same boat. We both lost on the same day to inferior competition on the road. So this is like a do or die game. We have to have that mindset that, okay, we slipped up. We can't slip up again. And Tennessee's got to have that mindset because they have struggled over the past few weeks. And, a lot of people not really talking about that because they're a little under the radar because you're talking about Bama and the expectations at Bama and the new coach. You're not talking about Georgia struggling, letting Mississippi State put 31 on them, and they struggled against Kentucky. You're not really talking about the other teams. Everybody's talking about Bama. So this weekend is going to tell a lot. It's going to be the start of something in this SEC to shake up, you know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of big games coming up down the pipeline, but it starts this Saturday.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Just kind of considering, the eerie similarities between Alabama and Tennessee. Because like you said, we had the ugly loss, they lost against Arkansas, but then also this past weekend where they struggled against Florida and we're going to dive into that a little bit more, but just their game against Florida, how, they were pointless at halftime, just like when they played Arkansas, and it was just some similarities in those 2 games as well. But just how we came off of that ugly win against South Carolina, same thing for them against Florida. There are, some similarities there, but I do think that, you look at Nico, as good as he is, Tennessee's quarterback, and then in comparison to Jalen Milroe, and the experience factor, things like that, it's going to be different things that's going to play into that. But I do believe that the coaching is going to play a huge role in that. So, when we talk about what's at stake, looking at the Georgia-Texas game, for example, I was just talking about quarterbacks in terms of Alabama and Tennessee, but even with Georgia and Texas, Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning, maybe Arch is going to play a little bit, but I believe, looking at Carson Beck, this is a guy who knows how to play in those bigger games. I mean, he could very well go into that game and feel like it's the SEC championship and play like it's the SEC championship. And I believe that factor, that dynamic, because Georgia is a little bit more used to that than Texas, that's going to play into that as well. Kirby Smart, so I don't know. I definitely think that it's going to be, we used to say how the West was won in terms of the SEC West, now with the whole divisions and the changes in the SEC, can't really say that, but it's going to be more so how the SEC was won, who comes out, in the top 2 towards the end. So this is going to be interesting. Hopefully y'all in the chat, y'all are kind of leaning in the same direction that we're leaning in towards, of just the fact that our game, of course, comes on before the Georgia and the Texas game, but theirs is a night game. Like, that's going to be on a whole different level because it's so much more at stake. That's why we say the SEC, it just means more. Bottom line, like, you can't compare it to anything else. You can look at the Ohio State-Oregon game. It doesn't compare, and people would just deal with it. It does not compare. So I don't know. I feel like we have great things to look forward to this weekend. I think that, coming off of that L against Vanderbilt, coming off of that ugly win against South Carolina, if the players and the coaches aren't embarrassed, if that's not enough to light a fire under us for us to go into Knoxville and take that W like we know we deserve it, I don't know what will. So
right.
Look. I mean, it's literally all or nothing. That has to be the mentality. Now, we have to kind of pivot a little bit more, though, because I feel like, we talk about Tennessee and what we do here. We don't like to, we're not going to sit here and bash teams. We're going to point out, the positives of what we're going to speak the real, right? We have to highlight the players, those who are the playmakers. And it's important to do that because I feel like a lot of times when you play the Vanderbilts, the South Carolinas, people kind of overlook those teams and certain players. And then they kind of hone in a little bit more on the Tennessees and the guys that we're hearing a lot about. But I definitely believe that there is a lot more to be heard as far as some of the players. And we may mention some names that, y'all may want to kind of tune into. But before we jump to that, I want to give another shout out to one of our sponsors, another sponsor, whitwillsports.com. We always tell you that your game day is not the same without the title towel. Visit whitwillsports.com. JB is holding his up, so go ahead and order yours. I know that Dan has one too. I said I'm going to get me a bedazzled one, so mine may have to be a custom order. But visit whitwillsports.com to order yours today and be sure to use promo code STANDARD for an exclusive discount. Now, I wanted to say that before we really dive into this Alabama-Tennessee game, because I feel like it's going to be a lot of dialogue here. So let's preview this, right? Like let's really talk about this. So, when we look ahead this weekend, as far as Tennessee, what they've been working with this season, how they've played so far, going into this game, there's some key information we probably want to kind of know about. So I'm going to mention a few facts, and then I want to get y'all's takes before we really dive deep. So, they had some key wins, and of course they had the one loss, but let's look back a few weeks ago. So they played Oklahoma, right? They played Oklahoma on the road. They won 25-15. There were certain things that I noticed in that game, as far as Oklahoma, because we still have to play them. So Oklahoma, they were not effective at all in terms of their run game. They had about 30 carries on the ground, but they only had a little over 30 rushing yards. I mean, they were totally ineffective. Their passing game was also bad. I believe their completion percentage was a little bit over 50%. They had about 190 receiving yards. But when you look at what Tennessee did on the road now at Oklahoma, they had over 50 plays on the ground, 150 rushing yards. They were able to run really well on Oklahoma, but they only had about 20 plays in the air, but about 200 passing yards. And so it's just very interesting to see that dynamic, the way that, because what I saw when I watched the game when Tennessee went to Oklahoma, they kind of held up a little bit initially, but when you look at the stats and you go back and you see maybe the latter half of the game, Tennessee, they really held their own, especially to do that on the road. Now, both Tennessee and Oklahoma's quarterbacks were sacked 3 times, and the only thing that Oklahoma seemed to do well was on defense. They had about 80 total tackles. Tennessee's time of possession was about 36 minutes. Oklahoma's was 24. And I say that for a reason, but I want to get y'all's takes really quickly before I move on. Anything in particular in that game that y'all feel like needs to be, because we're going on the road, right? We're going to Tennessee, and you look at how Tennessee performed on the road, and I'm going to get into that loss that they had against Arkansas, but then also the recent win against Florida. Anything in particular that has stood out to you in those 3 games that you want to highlight? And JB, I'll start with you on this one.
I will say that their defense has been solid in all these games.
Yep.
The offense have struggled, and we've talked about Bama. I said Bama offense struggled against South Carolina. Our defense actually played better, but their defense has been pretty solid all season. But Nico, he has the ability, but let's not forget he's a true freshman. So he's gonna make mistakes. He's gonna do questionable things, like the game they lost when he ran out of bounds, or he threw the ball. I think he ran out of bounds with no time left or something.
Something weird like that.
Yeah. Instead of giving this guy a chance, see, that's a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like it's a lot. I'm going to talk about when we talk about players, but the running game for Tennessee has been big this year, and it's something that Bama's going to have to stop, and we're going to have to run the ball as well. But Tennessee has done a great job, I would say. Defensively, offensively, they've been kind of, up and down, but we'll see which team comes out to play this Saturday in Neyland Stadium.
Yep. Very well said. Dan, what are your thoughts? Anything in particular that has stood out to you the way that Tennessee has played in those games in specific? Because I want to hone in a little bit more on the SEC games. So their loss against Arkansas, their win against Florida, and then their win against Oklahoma. Yeah,
definitely. The defense is stellar. Just like JB said, the defense is stellar. The run game is quite impressive and very effective. That's what they're leaning on 100% right now. quarterback is capable. He's similar, to but he's not as elusive as what was his name, Byron Brown from South Florida. So he's pretty similar to the quarterbacks we faced this year. Lenore Sellers, Byron Brown, among other the quarterback from Vanderbilt, Pavia. That in the fact that he can move around, so he can hit the deep ball, got a big arm, so we'll talk more about that when we break down the players. But definitely, Alabama, we're gonna have to start fast.
Yep.
We start fast, I think we'll put the pressure on Tennessee. We start fast like we did against Georgia. I don't think Tennessee has the firepower to be able to keep up with. So we come out and knock them in the mouth early. I think we can put them away early. So that's what I'm banking on this game. We definitely need to start fast and put a little pressure on Tennessee.
Right. I agree. And very similar to what we did that first half against Georgia, where we started fast. We got a really good lead. The only thing is that we took our foot off the pedal, but I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you look at their loss at Arkansas and then their win in overtime against Florida this past weekend. They didn't score. They were pointless at halftime in both of those games. Like their game against Arkansas, they didn't score until the third quarter, and they didn't score at all in the fourth quarter. They couldn't run against Arkansas like they could against Oklahoma. And even their completion percentage in terms of passing was in the 59%. Like they weren't as effective, and I think a lot of it had to do with Arkansas's defense, but Arkansas was a little bit more powerful even in terms of their offense. One thing that stood out to me though was that the time of possession, you kind of look at it and the reason why I'm talking about this is because we've talked about this a lot recently here, as far as how we haven't been managing the clock well. So you look at how it was when they played Oklahoma, when they beat Oklahoma 36 minutes, Oklahoma had 24. It was the opposite when they played Arkansas and I believe Florida as well. And so, all things considered, the quarterback, Nico, was sacked 4 times in their game against Arkansas. He was sacked a few times in the game against Florida. So you just look at everything in totality and you see that Tennessee, like you said, JB, and also Dan, in terms of their defense, they've been really, really good. They've been very solid, and we're going to get into that when we do our player breakdown. But then in terms of offense, like you said, Nico, he's stellar guy. He's a elite athlete, very good quarterback. He was highly touted out of high school, but sometimes that can come with challenges when you're a freshman. You have to play up to this hype at this huge SEC school. I mean, that can actually work against you. So all this to say, they've been pretty productive, about 2,900 yards, total yards, averaging about 485 yards per game, but they have had an average of 60 yards in penalties per game. So that's something else that's worth noting, because that can really, and that has affected them even in their game against Florida. So it's a lot. Their turnover ratio is 6-3, which means that they generally take better care of the ball versus their opponents. So things like that, their average time of possession around 29 minutes. So those are just some key things to know. And I think that these are things that our coaches have to keep into perspective when they're coaching up the game and getting guys ready. So let's go ahead and dive into our player analysis. And just for those who may be new here, what we like to do, we like to break down our opponents, right? So we pick a few players that we believe are going to be playmakers for the opposing team, and we really like to dive deep into them and why they may be a threat for us. So JB, I'll start with you, and then Dan, I'll toss it to you, and then I'll give mine.
All right, so I'm going to start off with, I believe this guy is the major key outside of Nico on offense. Number 6, the running back, Dylan Sampson. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. He's a junior. He's rock solid. So these are his numbers so far this season. He has 118 carries, 699 yards, 15 touchdowns. That's by far the most touchdowns by a running back in the SEC. 6 yards per carry, and he's already surpassed his production from last season, which was only 106 carries, 600 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And we're halfway through the season. He's blown past all that production. So he's characterized as a workhorse back. The last game he had 27 carries. 2 weeks ago, he had 22 carries. And he's had over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 games. So that's a whole lot of production from one guy.
Yeah.
Some of his strengths are he's very balanced after contact, meaning it's hard to bring him down. It's going to take a lot to bring him down. You can't arm tackle this guy. You're going to have to wrap up. It may take 2-3 guys to get them down, and you gotta hit them at point of attack. Short area quickness, meaning he's really quick and shifty. He can change speeds like a stick shift on an old Mustang. He can switch gears on you, and he's got great vision. NFL caliber running back. So this guy is, if you want to look at somebody like Joe Mixon that's in the NFL right now, you can kind of compare him to, or like Trevor Etienne. Travis is Etienne's brother. Travis Etienne, the one that plays for the Jaguars. So they're kind of similar. And Tennessee also runs a quick moving spread type offense, diverse. The running game is going to open up the passing. So they will probably run that ball 3-4 times, get some first downs, and then they'll take a deep shot on you. So it's very key that we gotta get this guy, man. He can't get 6-7 yards a carry because it's going to be very detrimental, especially how we have struggled to stop the run in between the tackles. So this is going to be probably our biggest test, trying to stop somebody running the ball. And I mean, it's too late to try to talk about it now. We just got to do it on Saturday.
We just got exactly. And pause really quickly. So the reason why I wanted you to start with Dylan on the running side, because you and Dan both pointed out how effective they've been in terms of, so they haven't been as consistent on offense as they have been on defense. But one thing that y'all both mentioned was their run game. And that's something that a lot of us have been talking about these last couple of weeks, how our defense has had a hard time getting off the field on third down and stopping the run. So I wanted to start off with that, because I feel like with Nico, it's a lot to talk about with him, but we're more familiar with him in a sense. Dylan, I'm glad that we started with him. Was there anyone else that you had that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, so I got a wide receiver, Dante Thorne Jr. Now I picked him. He's a 6'5" senior, big wide receiver. So he only has 9 catches, but he leads the team with 295 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 32.8 yards per reception. And if he had more receptions, he will be leading the nation. Right now, Ryan Williams leads the nation with 25.8 yards per catch, but Ryan Williams has 23 receptions. So he doesn't have a lot of receptions to qualify, to lead the nation in reception yards average. But I mean, last week against Florida, he only had 1 catch for 11 yards, but he has big playability. He has a 66-yard catch, a 59-yard, 53, and a 42-yard catch on the season. So those minimal catches are big plays. And he has elite size, speed combination. He's a big body, can get advantage over your DBs, and you can stretch the field vertically with him. He has 4.43 speed, so you can't take him for granted. Now, he's quick off the snap, smooth acceleration, and he's more of a body catcher than a hands catcher. So you know how you kind of distinguish between the two. Some of them like to catch with their hands, go out and get it. He's more of a body catcher. So he will try to body you, get position on you, and catch the ball. So we have to watch that. And the reason he probably will give us fits, because have you seen we have been beat over the top. The last game in that touchdown that they caught on us, the guy with the toe tap, we got beat over the top against Georgia. We've been beat over the top multiple times, and this big 6'5" receiver, if he gets body position and the way Nico can throw the ball, it could be a big play, and it could be a pivotal point in the game. So we have to keep tabs on him. He won't catch a lot of passes, but the 1 or 2 that he may catch could be big play touchdowns or big plays in the game. So we really have to keep an eye on him. That's why I picked them to talk about.
Yeah, those are some good ones. Y'all hear it. Drop in the comments, what are y'all thoughts on Dante, and then also Dylan Sampson in terms of the running game? Well, that's a really good segue, Dan. I mean, you got the man of the hour, so but I did want to get to these targets on offense so that you can segue us into Mr. Nico, the freshman. So how good is he, Dan? How has he looked this year? And was the hype legitimate for him coming out of high school? Was the hype legitimate about him?
Definitely. To me and my brother Chris, we always thought he was the better quarterback coming out. He was ranked number 3 overall player. So coming out of high school, Arch Manning being the top player. But Chris and I, we thought Nico was a better prospect in high school. So But of course, Bama thought that Arch was, so they chose to pursue Arch, which cost them Nico, I believe, in the long run. But Nico 6'6", 225. He's Gazelle. Out of Long Beach, California. I'm gonna try to pronounce his name. Iama Labia.
It's Iamaleava. Iamaleava.
It's harder to say than Tonga Baloa.
Or just call Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, Nico, impressive player. Now the thing is, he's kind of been around the 200-yard passing range. He started out with a good game. His first game was Chattanooga, I think that's who it was. He passed for over 300 yards. It was a breakout game. And so since then he had a 200-yard game, but everything else been under the 200-yard threshold. So that's what Bama's gonna need to keep him. But if things go right for he'll end up throwing for more than that, because that means we stop the run game. You know what I'm saying? So I think the key to beating them is stopping the running game. So, we got to put pressure on Nico, get him behind the chains, but he the type of player he is, he's elusive when you allow him to be. He has 44 carries for 135 yards. So he can, but it's only 3 yards a carry, which is not much for at the quarterback position. But not a lot of design runs for him, but he's the type of player that can hurt you with his big arm, like JB said with Dante Thorne, the squirrel right. He had the weapons, he can get it to downfield.
Yeah.
We got to stop the run, put him in obvious passing downs, so we can be able to play the too high safety or play cover for whatever we need to do to not get beat deep. But his deep ball is good, is up there with Miro, so. And I think Miro has one of the best in the deep balls in the country. So the type of player that Nico is, he's the one you don't want to let beat you. You know what I'm saying? Well, you want to make him beat you rather than the Dylan Sampson, because Dylan Sampson is their workhorse. So he's the guy you want to stop. But you want to put pressure on Nico. That's the key to the game. Putting pressure on him, putting the obvious passing situations, because he's a capable passer when he's off script, so they try to keep us down. They run a hurry up running offense, kind of like Auburn did a few years under this Malzahn. Ole Miss, kind of like what they do. They hurry up and they run it. They're not hurry up pass. They hurry up and they're gash for run. So we got to play sound defense and put pressure on the young guy. But my other player segueing into the defensive side is the number one edge prospect in the NFL draft. That's James Pierce. Bama fans, we know him very well because he gave us fits last year. Yep. He had us hating Caden Proctor. So this year he's not been as effective in the passing game. He only has 2 sacks, but he has forced fumble. Only 9 tackles on the year, so it's been kind of quiet. But he is still that guy, still capable. And of course they're going to line him up on Elijah Pritchett a lot. I'm thinking that's what they're going to do. So they're going to line them up across from Elijah Pritchett. They're going to try to put them in winning situations. So, it's up to Jalen to be able to see things pre-snap. And the offense got to be able to adjust and slide protection correctly. So we don't allow him to have a big game. But he is very, very capable guy. He's going to be a top 5 overall pick in the NFL draft. So those are my 2 guys, but 6'5", 243 freak off the edge. That's not going to make it fun for the offense.
Yeah, definitely. No, those were. I'm glad we covered those too. And then you talk about Nico. He's been sacked 11 times. He was sacked 4 times in their game against Arkansas. And one thing that I've noticed in terms of their penalties is I like to look at things in terms of capitalizing off of the weaknesses, right? And so I feel like if we can make Nico as uncomfortable as possible, force some penalties, and then we can take advantage of that. Now, you mentioned one guy in particular, another one of their wide receivers, Squirrel White. So that was one of the guys that I had on my list because I'm like, okay, this is a guy who he's another playmaker, right? He's another target for Nico. He's a junior. He's actually from Birmingham, Alabama. So, I don't know how we missed out on him, but he's another, but he's from Birmingham. Now, he had an 800-yard season last year. He's currently at about 250 receiving yards this year. They had him on punt returns this year as well. He has over 100 yards on punt returns, so he's doing pretty good there. We may see him out there on punt returns in this game as well. He's played in all their games this season, and he had over 70 receiving yards in their game this past week against Florida. Now, I did say that they didn't, they weren't looking too good in that first half against Florida, and really the second half, I mean, they had to go into overtime, but Florida did give them a really good game. So this guy, he's a guy that, he's hungry. He wants to eat. And I think him and Dante, they're going to kind of share some of that star power in terms of receivers. But there was another guy. Now, I want to mention him just because he's familiar to Alabama. He was at Alabama just, I believe, last year, actually, Miles Kitselman. He's there, of course, tight end. Now, he's a former Alabama tight end. He didn't really have as many catches when he was at Alabama. But, since he's been at Tennessee, he's already had almost about 100 receiving yards. And he had a touchdown in their game earlier this year against North Carolina State. He played in their game against Arkansas a couple weeks ago, but he didn't play against Florida. Not exactly sure why, but, he could be another guy that we see out there, especially if they want to get creative in terms of their offensive play calling. So just be on the lookout for him just because, we have those connections in terms of Alabama. Now, when we pivot a little bit to the defense, one guy that I was going to talk about, but of course he's not playing because he tore his ACL against Florida, Keenan Peely, and he's one of their top defensive guys, in terms of tackles. I mean, he's that go-to guy. And I remember when he went out in their game against Florida, even the commentators were kind of stressing how big of a loss that would be for Tennessee. So, of course we can move past him, but that's going to be a huge loss for Tennessee. Now, but I did want to look at their DBs a little bit. So they have a cornerback and they have a safety. Cornerback, Jermod McCoy. This guy, he's a sophomore. This is his first year at Tennessee. He was at Oregon State last year. He had over 30 tackles and 2 interceptions last year. He has about 15 total tackles and 1 interception this year. And that interception that he got that was in their game against Oklahoma. So I do see in terms of just what we're going to be matching up against. We look at our receivers, the Ryan Williams of the world, different guys. He's going to be one of those guys out there that's going to, try to, I think they're going to try to lock up Ryan Williams, but that's it's cool because, we got some other guys. But then also their safety, Will Brooks, this guy, he and Keenan Peely that I just mentioned, they both lead the team in total tackles. He's a senior. He's also from Birmingham, Alabama. So don't know how we missed out on that one as well. But he had about 20 total tackles last season at Tennessee. Has about 30 now this season. So that tells you a lot, going from 20 in a whole season last year to currently 30. And we're, just halfway through the season. So that says a lot. He had a pick 6 in their game against North Carolina State earlier this year. Had about 10 total tackles and a forced fumble in their game against Arkansas. Of course, they lost that game, but that's just some numbers that were for you could, you really sit there and think about their defense. We both talked about how JB, how good their defense and Dan, how good their defense has been this year. They've been solid every single game for the most part. And these are their key playmakers, whether it's Arian Carter, Joshua Joseph. So it's different guys, but we have a lot to really, it's so much to talk about, right? And I don't want to just go through their whole roster, but I do want to talk about something that's kind of been weighing in on our fan base is how does our defense get off of the field sooner? Essentially, how do we win third downs and God forbid fourth downs? So let's get into that. Dan, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do we need to do, Dan, in terms of defense? Because Kane Womack is acting like he don't know what he's doing out there, and I'm going to just call it for what it is, right? What do we need to do to get off of the field quicker, and how do we win on third downs? And I want those in the chat to put your thoughts as well in the chat while we discuss this.
I'm gonna keep it simple. How do you do it? You win first and second down.
Well,
you keep them behind the chain. Yep. You put them in obvious pass. You keep them in third and long, which we've seen. We failed to put teams in constantly on a consistent basis all year. That's been my thing on defense. Being in a winning situation on third down. So you know, you want to keep teams in third and six or better. You know, so that in order to do that, you got to win first and second down. You can't give up 6-yard runs on first down. You got to stop it. You got to stop the run on first down, first and second down. You got to stop it. You got to keep them behind the chain, not on schedule. So, you know, that comes with, you know, our linebackers filling the run game, filling the run gaps, you know. So let's get the hole. Let's be decisive, quick. You know, let's fill the hole. Our defensive line, you know, let's hold up the blocks. Let's let, you know, Campbell and Lawson do their thing. You know, we got to be able to keep our defense in a winnable third down situation. You know, so it's just as simple as that, you know. So that comes with stopping the run and that not letting Dylan Sampson gash us on first and second down.
So let me ask you this then, Dan, because, you know, you're basically saying what all of us have been saying, and we've been saying that the same thing on this show for weeks. So when we talk about stopping the run, what does that look like to you? Like, does that look like having that extra linebacker, maybe pulling in Justin Jefferson and then taking out, you know, one of the DBs, or does that look like Alabama stacking the box? I mean, what does that look like to you?
You can bring an extra safety in the box or whoever, you know, bring another backer, you know, play a 4-4, you know, do whatever. But whatever it takes to win first and second down, that's what we need to do to be able to win third down. You know, that's what we got to do, because we've seen the struggle with stopping the run on first and second down with what we've been running. So if we have to play 7 or 8 in the box and dare them to beat us on first down with the deep ball, then that's what we need to do. But we got to be able to effectively stop the running game consistently all game long on first and second down.
Exactly. And just to note, they're about 45% on third down efficiency, and I believe they were about 70% in terms of fourth down conversion. So that's just something for us we see the struggles that we've had against Vanderbilt and South Carolina and even Georgia in the second half, and just kind of what that would look like in a game against Tennessee. So I like those points that you mentioned, and I mean, you're just being straightforward, and we got to win first and second down, so it ain't no third down, and then we can get off the field and have our offense come on the field. I mean, it's just simple as that. It's simple as that. And like I said, I want those in the chat. If you just join, go ahead and add your thoughts. See if if y'all agree with what we're saying, or if you have any other suggestions. Now, JB, what are your thoughts? So how do you envision Alabama? What does our defense need to do? If you were Kane Womack, how do we win on third down? And on top of that, how do we frustrate their run game? What does that look like to you?
Well, first of all, I'm going to piggyback on what Dan said about the third and longs. So we won't have to, if we are in a situation where it's third and long, if we stop them on first and second down and we have a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, we have to play up. I see a lot of times, and I saw this last game where it's 3rd and 10 and we're playing off and we're giving them a cushion and they're catching the ball right at the marker to get the first down. So we will make the tackle, but when we make the tackle, they already got the first down.
Yeah.
So I want to see them come up a little bit. Don't be afraid to get beat over the top. You got to come up and put some pressure on these guys. And also, when we have them stopped, the penalties. We've been so many penalties that have given them teams first down when we have third and longs and even fourth downs. And you have just a penalty. We have to be disciplined. Now, some of those, like the roughing the passer and some of those ticky-tack fouls they call, you just got to live with that because that's how they call in the game. But some of the other stuff that you can kind of like just be disciplined and make sure like don't go off sides and like face mask and stuff like that. Just got to be more disciplined on third downs as well. But to answer your question, C-Sheet, I think like Dan said, we have to stop the run, get in those gaps. And I think we do need to put 3 linebackers in the game. Yeah. We saw that South Carolina, bring Justin Jefferson in or something, switch it up a little bit, make them pass the ball on first down. We have to trust our DBs. But if we're going to trust our DBs, our D line has to do a better job getting penetration and getting pressure. Now, they did that last week. They got some penetration and some pressure on the quarterback. They had 4 sacks, had some pressures. But, you got to do that consistently, and you have to do it on those early downs to have those third and longs and have those passing situations. because you know when it's a 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, they're gonna pass the ball.
Exactly.
They're either gonna pass the ball, they're gonna try to get to the sticks, or they're gonna dump it off to the running back and hope that he gets something. But all in all, man, it all comes down to being disciplined and calling the right plays. That's on Womack. You got to call the right plays. Sometimes you got to get out of that 4-2-5. You got to put the linebacker in the game.
Exactly. Now, y'all preaching tonight. Can we get an amen in the chat? Hey, and look, I meant to mention this. We will have our Q&A segment shortly. Go ahead and drop your questions. We're gonna have to speed through them though, because we got a lot to talk about. Like, this is a huge weekend, so we want to give y'all all the information that we can. Y'all made some really good points, and what I'm seeing is, I question the coaches, because my thing is, if you're a defensive coordinator and you're calling plays late and the guys are out there confused and not really knowing what play to run, either you have too many plays, you're running the wrong scheme, or you can't read offense. How like this 4-2-5 is, and I want the audience to know that it's not that the 4-2-5 is just bad, because I mean, even when Nick Saban was there, we would run different, we would have the 4-2-5. You see different teams doing that, but as your primary scheme, it doesn't work in the SEC. That works well on the West Coast when you're pretty much passing the ball and you're going up against teams that relies more on their passing game, but you can't just rely on that. And it makes me wonder, Kane Womack, just how capable he is to coach in the SEC. I mean, this is ridiculous. Just like we saw when I think the first quarter against our South Carolina last week, having Justin Jefferson, and just a huge difference that it made. I mean, you even see the team play with a different level of confidence, and that's just it's like, it's common sense. You don't change what's working, and they did that. But I feel like when it comes to running a 4-2-5, and y'all mentioned some of these things, but overall, we need to simplify our schemes. Number one, we need to figure out what is going to be our base scheme. Is it going to be something maybe as simple as like a cover 3? I mean, because to me, you can't necessarily go wrong in that regard. Now, I'm not gonna break that down too much right now, but I feel like either a cover 3 or something to where we can take advantage of the field, but then we also have our guys up front. I still want to see Justin Jefferson in the middle. I want to see those 3 linebackers. I believe when you're going up against a team like Tennessee, you have to. Otherwise, you do need to stack the box, and it just is what it is to stop the run. We need to force Nico to throw that ball into our secondary. Have guys like Damani Jackson or Keon Sabb, maybe Devontae Simpson, one of them guys picking these guys off, because they've thrown quite a few interceptions. So we need to take advantage of that. I think also in terms of tackling, because one of y'all mentioned that as far as finishing the tackle as well, because what we're noticing in some of the games, these guys are still getting the opposing team. They're getting more yards even after we come in contact with them. And that's a problem. We need to be able to take them down to the ground. We ain't out there to play patty cake. This ain't no nursery rhymes. Alabama, we win games and we look forward to the national championship. So we have to do our part on both sides, the coaching and the players. We do need to be more physical in the box as well. But then I also feel like in terms of our defensive line, because I think, JB, you mentioned this as far as our line up front. Why can't we use any type of disguises, any type of like pre-snap disguises, something like that, just so that it confuses Nico and also takes advantage of the penalties that they've been getting in terms of their O-line. So we can use any type of pre-snap disguises, kind of throw off their O-line a little bit, even if they have a tight end up there up front as well, throw off their O-line so that you're forcing Nico to be uncomfortable, because we see what he does when he's uncomfortable. He throws those picks, you can really get him out of rhythm. I think him being a true freshman, it's a lot that he's carrying, right? It's a lot of expectation. We need to take advantage of that. We need to limit those explosive plays as well from their side, and we need to make sure that we keep everything in front of us, if that makes sense. So be ready for checkdowns, because what I believe what he's going to try to do, if we stick to that same 4-2-5, we got our 5 DBs back there, we're locking up their receivers. They're going to look at throwing those shorter passes to maybe a Dylan Simpson, like you mentioned, Dylan Simpson, maybe a tight end. It's going to be those shorter passes that they're going to be relying on. Miles Kitselman, Holden Stays. It's going to be one of those tight ends. So I just think that there's a lot of opportunity as far as defense. I've never been a coach, but to me, this isn't rocket science. We've seen how this works. Coach Saban, he's a defensive mind, right? So I believe that he needs to do his part as well as a mentor. He needs to be talking to, Kane Womack, get his head out of the clouds, but we need to be stacking the box. If they don't want to put that extra linebacker in there, stack the box, stop the run. Like you said, Dan, win first and second down, force them to throw into our secondary so we can show them what time it is. Because It's over with. Like, we finna win this game this weekend. I'm not playing with y'all. I told y'all before this season started, we winning that national championship. We're not like Vanderbilt. We're not gonna circle a team on our regular no, we're circling the natty. Like, whatever it takes to get there, we're gonna win. So that just is what it is. Now, I'm gonna stop ranting because I look. I'm ready to go out there and coach because we're winning in Knoxville. I don't know what they thought, but like I said, we need to figure out what our base scheme is going to be. We don't need to be confusing the guys. We need to know what we're going to do so everyone feels comfortable out there on that defense. And we need to have Justin Jefferson in there. But hey, I mean, they not. Are they giving us a check to coach? I don't know. But let's talk about score predictions and players of the game. I want to get y'all's takes on this because I've seen different numbers and I want those in the chat. Put your score predictions, what you think that's going to look like, but then also include who you feel like is going to be the offensive player of the game and defensive in terms of Alabama. So Dan, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's your score prediction, dude? Because you were so close last week and I gave you a hard time. Dude, I gave you a hard time. Like, I literally, I'm like, what? It was like just a 3-point spread, if I remember correctly, that you said.
4-point spread, I predicted.
And I just almost fell out my chair, but you were so close. So what are you thinking this weekend? What does it look like to you?
We're looking much better on this end. So
okay.
This week, because I think the fact that we're on the road, we're going to come out with a little more intensity, I guess. I'm hoping. So, I expect us to start fast. And so my score prediction is Alabama 31, Tennessee 20. So that's a 2-score.
That's my exact one. I had 31-20.
Okay, you see, great mind thinking like.
That's crazy.
My players of the game. I've been riding with Jalen Miro. Offense, and that's who we hang our hat on, offense. So it's gonna be Jalen Miro. Defensively, I'm gonna do something a little different.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Keon Sabb as a defensive player of the game.
Look, Dan, I'm getting tired of you. I don't know if you hacked into my computer, but I literally typed down 31-20, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 field goal, offense, Miro, defense, Quandarius Robinson, or Keon Sabb with an interception.
Wow. Look at this. Yeah.
Wow.
See, look at the Lord coming through. See, that's just confirmation. That's all that is. It's just confirmation.
I hacked your computer through your Twitter profile.
You probably did, because I know I saw my computer glitching earlier.
I'm not that smart.
whatever. I wouldn't put it past you then. Nah, that's very interesting. So then that in itself, that kind of tells you where the sentiment is. But I want to get your take on that, JB. What's your score prediction, and then who are your players of the game?
I'm gonna go with a little closer game. I'm gonna do what Dan did last week.
Oh God.
And I'm gonna go 28-24 Bama in a dog fight. 28-24
Bama.
Yeah, I got 28-24.
Okay.
I know, lost your mind, man.
That's what you said last week, CC, when Dan picked that score. But yeah, so I'm gonna pick Jalen Miro to score all 4 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 2 through the air. And I think it's gonna be a very close game. We hold on, and defensively, I'm gonna go Damani Jackson. I think Damani Jackson has a pick. I want to go. I don't know, man. I think it just comes down. We've been battle tested, right?
Yeah.
They put when they made the game winning poster, Alabama did, and they had battle tested on it. And you can't be battle. That's South Carolina. This is the game you get battle tested. The rivalry games on the road is where you get battle tested for the rest of the season. And I think it actually starts this week. I think it's going to be one of those games where the fans are going to be worried again, but we're going to pull it off. I believe in Jalen Miro. He played a mediocre game last week to his standards, did not play well. I think he plays well on the road in Knoxville this Saturday, and we pull it off and win the game.
Yeah, and I like that. Really quickly though, shout out to Monica in the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat, and Chris as well. I see you kind of, you're an Auburn fan, but you figuring out what it is. But then shout out to this Ronald, because I see him hating on Alabama, But I mean, you got to watch us, right? Because y'all don't have anything to watch. So shout out to you as well. No, I like what you said. I mean, I feel like a score that you gave, I don't feel like I felt last week because that was South Carolina, right? I mean, this is Tennessee, but this will set the tone because when we went to Wisconsin, their starting quarterback got injured, very early, right? But then you look at, we have LSU on the road, right? So this would set the tone and kind of help us to see what we're working with on those huge road games. So we definitely have we got a test in front of us, but Jalen Milroe, he has some things to prove, we already know he's good, but I know that, this past weekend and the weekend before, he wasn't too pleased with that. The difference is going to come down to Jalen Milroe. What can he do? How is he going to look in that game versus Nico being a true freshman? They're coming off of that loss against Arkansas, barely beat Florida, had to play from behind. So this is going to be huge. Now let's segue a little bit into our Q&A. Okay, I see. Okay, Womack. Okay, Ronald was hating on Womack. Okay, I'll cut you some slack then. I thought you were kind of, had something to say about me and my panel. Y'all have to let you know. We don't roll like that. but any specific questions that we have from the audience? Anything that, okay, so shout out to D Baker 2383. Who do y'all think would be the MVP? Well, we just answered that. Who would be the MVP? It sounds like consensus is Jalen Milroe. So if he didn't solidify that Heisman bid in that game against Georgia, he's about to solidify this weekend. Go ahead and book them tickets for the Heisman trip because he's gonna be there. Shout out to Anthony Heron, my godfather. Thank you. Okay, and then so Jalen Milroe, TCB. Shout out to you. Who has more to lose, Tennessee or Bama? We both do, and we both have issues. Will be an interesting game. Roll my favorite Tide. Any of y'all have any thoughts on this one? Who has more to lose?
Bama. I say Bama. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we lost to Vandy, and then
lose.
we're not used to lose. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right about
it's the standard, right?
Yeah.
It's the standard. Yeah. No, I'm hitting but DeBoer. Okay. I got you. Yeah. Shout out to Ron. I was just making sure because, we just have to make sure we don't play those games over here. Like ain't nobody coming up in here. Y'all can go to other shows with that, but we're going to let y'all know this is Alabama forever. We have a whole different standard. We win natties over here. We not satisfied with no little raggedy win against South Carolina by a few points. That's not the standard. So with that title towel that JB rocking, we're going to be rocking it this weekend, and let Knoxville and everybody else up there know. Okay. So, Alabama, this definitely,
TCB.
Yeah. Exactly. Shout out to TCB. Yeah, but it's definitely us. We have more to lose because that's standard. And then with DeBoer and all the, the rat poison, can Alabama keep the train moving? So it's definitely Alabama. Any other questions? Chris Williams, the notorious Auburn fan that loves Alabama. Okay. Alabama is better. They have better athletes. They just cannot beat themselves like they've been doing. I mean, I guess it's better than throwing 4 interceptions in multiple games in a season like Auburn, huh?
That is true what he just said.
It's true. But I got to troll Auburn. They real raggedy, so I got to troll
Williams
Auburn.
been speaking facts lately.
That's 100% fact. I can't lie.
Yeah, he's trying to convert to a Bama fan, I believe. He need to change that profile picture.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, and then 12-1 training. Shout out to you. It seems like our defense played its best against Wisconsin in the first half versus Georgia. Then they regress. What changed, or how do we get our mojo back? I think it's the coaching. I think it's the coaching. He's taking his foot off the pedal. I think he's confused. He doesn't understand playing in the SEC and what that means every single weekend, all 4 quarters. It's not you. You don't do well in the first half and not finish. You have to finish. Yeah. So I honestly believe it's the coaching. But what do y'all think? Do y'all have any thoughts?
It's it's about intensity level. You got to start with that intensity to be able to. You know what I'm saying? So we're kind of even keeled a little bit.
That's true.
We set the intensity bar a little lower than what it is, so it's hard to raise it once you set an intensity level right here. It's hard to go here, unless you get your backs against the wall where you have to win. You put yourself in a have to win situation. So I think we didn't start high enough with the intensity part of it. It was just let's see how it goes. You know what I'm saying? So. We did let them know, let Georgia know in the first half that we were Bama, but we settled after that.
Yeah.
Okay, we showed them. We thought the game was over. So we got to understand the importance of playing for 60 minutes. So, That's really what it is. You know, we just got to learn to maintain intensity for 4 quarters.
It just takes it one step further than just being 1-0 every single weekend, because with that mindset alone, you have a game like the South Carolina game last week. We got the win, right? But it's playing the full 4 quarters, because then that's when that score looks different. So I like that.
Look at the scoreboard. You know, whether you're up 20, you know, 28-0, you don't look at the scoreboard. You play it like you're down. You just play. You keep playing. You keep attacking.
Yep.
Yeah. Agreed. Will Miro outplay Nico? JB, what's your thoughts on that?
Yes. Simple yes. And I feel like he has to, because, you know, he's the veteran in this situation and he has more experience. And I mean, he's the guy. He's really the guy that's gonna put the team on his back. So I just feel like Miro's gonna go out there and do his thing, and yeah, he's gonna outplay Nico on the road.
Oh, definitely 100%. And Jalen Milroe, I mean, he played, had a really good game in the SEC championship game last year. He's familiar with playing in these big games. Even the loss against Texas last year, it does something to you to play in those bigger games where it means more. And Nico, he's new to this. He has a lot that he's carrying. As soon as we can get him uncomfortable, we got to keep him uncomfortable, force him to throw the ball. I mean, I think it's gonna definitely be a Milroe Heisman game for sure. Any other questions? 12-1 training. Why has Nick Sheridan refused to feed Justice and Jam? Is there a reason we can't risk Jalen running as much as he is? Dan, you got any thoughts on this one? You've been saying it for the past few weeks.
Yeah. Nick Sheridan, I guess he's a tight ends guy.
Yeah.
And plus,
technically, yeah.
Miro is a running quarterback. Same thing with when we had Jalen Hurts. You tend to take cares from the running back when you got a quarterback like that design run. So, it's just a matter of, involving them early, because, we haven't had a lot of scripted plays. They weren't written into the script a lot on early, on the script plays. So most of the script plays were design runs to the quarterback, little plays to the tight end, shots downfield. Yeah. Screen passes, we tried to get Emmanuel Henderson involved early in the year. We're getting K-Law involved early in the year. So we just got to get them involved early in the scripted plays, then we can ride the hot hand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and that'll help tremendously with time of possession as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we saw some of that early on last week, right? In that first and second quarter, getting that early game with Jam Miller, then Justice. Yeah. I mean, it's that lack of consistency, right? We're not seeing that, and that'll throw off momentum as well. So
yep. We had one drive where we ran the ball the whole drive and scored a touchdown on last week.
And that's exactly how you can manage the clock better as well. That time of possession matters. And them being coaches, Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack, they should know that better than anyone. So I'm going to keep questioning their job, because if they ain't going to do their job, they can hire one of us, right? We can head right on up, because I would love it. I mean, I would do a better job than this. All right.
Another question I have, how many times has Justice Haynes touched the ball in the second half of this season? Not many.
You probably count on one hand.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But you know what, though? I wonder if think about this, though. I wonder if it's because of the scenarios we've been putting ourselves in terms of coaching. And it's not that I'm very objective. So I don't just look at things it's just all on this person or all on this group. But it makes me wonder, the second half, if we're not running as much, we're relying more on our passing game. It's because we're not doing what we need to do in terms of getting off the field on third downs, getting the defense off the field. So when our offense does get out there, they have to make those deep passes. They have to move quickly to get more points. You know what I mean? So we're in a position where we're playing not to lose and we're not playing to win. A lot of that goes back to coaching, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. D Baker, do you all think that our safeties are doing a good job keeping everything in front of them? Do you think Sab is progressing? What do y'all think?
As far as the first part of that question, I would say not well enough. Right. There's a couple of times where, the safeties were nowhere. Even situations, there were a couple of situations where we were playing cover 2, which means the 2 deep safeties had the deep side, the deep half of the field, and we had one of the linebackers, I don't remember who it was, playing the deep center. And we were doing a bad job of playing inside out you know what I'm saying, we were playing more outside in with the safeties, but with the in that type of situation, you know, you want to keep everything in front of it, especially on that what was that, fourth down?
4th and 9, yeah.
That was ridiculous. I was ready. Hey, I was ready to send my diploma back to Alabama. Like, if y'all don't get this garbage, what is this mess? How dare you?
How you let guys get behind you in those situations? That should never ever happen. So no, we got a lot of opportunity on that part of the game. But do we think Saban's progressing? I think he is who he is. He's adjusted well to the SEC coming in, and you know, he's a gambler. That's the thing about him. He's gonna take shots. That's why he's biting on little double moves and stuff. So, you know, he's risky, but it's a risk reward situation. You know, he hasn't been beat a lot. He hasn't been, you know, so I think he's progressing well at the same position.
Yeah.
And Sab, he had those 2 picks in the first game, and everybody thought he was gonna have 10 interceptions this year. You know, he kind of got everybody excited. But you know, I think he has been, like, in the big moments, he's giving up big plays, and people look at that and say he's regressing. But I think he's doing a good job. Him and Malachi, yes, been the big game, big moments. He needs to. I think it's communication. You know, like you say, that 4th down, y'all need to communicate. Who's got this side? Who's got the high end? So I think, like I say, everything can be fixed, but it needs to be fixed very quickly, and we can't afford to get beat again. So.
Yeah, I agree. No, Sab is good. And I saw Salik was basically saying that we can't put everything on coaching. We're not doing that. I don't know when you joined, but we did say that we're objective when it comes to this. Yeah, it's definitely on the players too. Finishing the tackles. We ain't out there. This isn't nursery rhymes, right? We're not playing merry-go-round with the players. We need to get into the ground. They shouldn't still be getting yards after we've come into contact with them, and that's just, you know, that's on the players. So, but yeah, we were.
They get paid now too. You know, like my friend Tyler Siskey was saying. You know, hey, you know, it's hard to have accountability. You know, and I agree with him when you got the NIL involved. You know, it's hard to hold these guys accountable. When you say something to them, they hit the portal.
Yeah,
that's where we are with college football right now.
That's true. And then, but then you question, do you really want someone like that there anyway? You know, shout out to Draco. I'm not saying to bench Jalen at all, but do you think Ty Simpson would be better under this type of offense? Not in the game against Tennessee.
Jalen's team.
I don't know.
We'll have that at a later date.
But you have to build that chemistry with the receivers, right? And I just question if Ty's been able to do that, you know?
Yeah. And I think the offense is kind of catered to Jalen because he's running the ball 15 times a game. Design runs. And I think most of that is catered to his skill set. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I just pray he stays healthy, you know?
It's hard out here for a pimp. I guess Chris.
You're right, Chris.
But somebody got to do it, right? Somebody got to do it. So yeah, no, Ty Simpson. To be honest, Ty should have been in some of the games that we've had since the last time we saw him. He should have been able to play, which means that we should have been able to, you know, score early. You know what I mean? Like, we should have been able to put him in. So that's unfortunate, but I still put that back on coaching. Draco. Okay, that's the same comment. People are still doubting Miro. Yeah. We're just gonna have to. Miro's just gonna have to link. You know, y'all say let all the naysayers know. I say that means something else, but I'm not gonna say it here, so we don't get flagged. But yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. So
don't do it.
Yeah. Now this has been good. Hopefully we were able to give y'all some valuable information regarding Tennessee. But you know, we all shared the same sentiment that Miro is the player of the game on offense. Offensive line is going to hold up well, not a lot of penalties. But then our defense in the back, because we're going to force Tennessee to throw that ball. DBs, they're gonna be on it. So roll Tide roll. All right. Well, let's quickly let's promote our shows really quickly and our socials, and then I want to mention a few of the other shows on our network. So really quickly, Dan, any other shows that you want to mention? Any social media?
Yeah, definitely. You know, follow me, y'all, if you can, on X at the Final Whistle Dan, Instagram Dan James IV. You catch me on here 3 days out the week. You know, you catch me on Tuesday nights, the Final Whistle, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, every Wednesday night, right here on the same channel. The Crimson Dynasty with my super cast here, you know, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central. And on Saturdays, the post-game show, the Bama post-game show, immediately following Bama games. So, y'all make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe. We're full of Bama content, So, hey, it's Tennessee week, y'all. Let's beat the Vols.
Mm-hmm. Does your background have anything to do with our game this weekend? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm letting them know we coming. We charging. The tide is coming.
Straight like that.
This bad boy here cost me $15,000. I had to go and get them, for the African Safari. I'm taking them. We're gonna have a live. You're gonna see me. I might bust up in Neyland Stadium on an elephant. You know what I'm saying? Y'all see me. Y'all come bail me out. Y'all just come bail me out.
I got you.
We got you, big man. We got you, man.
All right. Let them know we coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Link.
Link. They're right, Keenan P.
Okay, JB, you have any other shows that you want to promote or any socials?
Y'all can find me on Sunday night talking Bama with JT and Marshall Bean, sometimes Stephen O. Smith. That's the Sunday show, 7:00 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bama Standard Network. Find me every Wednesday night right here with you guys on the Crimson Dynasty. Also, you can go to my YouTube channel, Sports Talking with JB. I have a Tuesday night show. I have a show coming up at 8:30 tonight, the Black and Gold Show, Bama State. And I'm working on some other stuff with the basketball team coming up. And shouts out to the basketball team. Mark Sears is preseason National Player of the Year. And, he's in the conversation. So it's going to be a big year for Alabama hoops as well. So,
oh, yeah.
Exactly. And shout out to Whitwell Sports again. We just hate Tennessee. They low down. They dirty.
They
and
dirty.
they some snitches.
They stink.
All right. Well, you can find me on, but we coming, just so y'all know. You can find me on X now. It's I already had an account on there. I just don't really use it. But you can find me official Cishi without the apostrophe, CCHI. And then on Instagram, beauty_of_intelligence. I see Chris with that Auburn mess trying to shout out Peyton Thorne with all them interceptions, but the devil is a lie. So yeah. And then I do want to mention that we do have Teague's Take tonight at 8:15 Central Standard Time, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. As Dan mentioned, we have the post-game show immediately after the game this weekend, after we beat Tennessee. And then Sunday, we have Sunday Nights Talking Bama with JB and Josh Tucker at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So without further ado, y'all, roll tide, roll. We got to win this weekend. No excuses. It's no other option. Like you said, Dan, we coming. whether they're ready or not, we coming. All right. Well, y'all have a blessed one, and we'll see y'all after the game. Roll tide.
Roll tide.